A large amount of music is just a remix. The concept of everything being a remix was brought to public attention by Kirby Ferguson with his 4-part video series, Everything is a Remix. He focuses on many different topics like movies, technology, and other inventions, and even some music. I thought I'd take this idea and, well, remix it to focus in on orchestral music. There are no shortages of forum posts and videos about how composers like John Williams, Hans Zimmer, or James Horner are the biggest plagiarists in modern music history. There are a handful of examples where film soundtracks seem to have almost identical music to other works. Here are a few of those examples. The reason behind these similarities are not entirely the composer's fault. That blame can be put on the director of the film. James Horner explains the situation in his TED Talk.
The film world is very proprietary. When I do a film score, I am basically nothing more than a fancy pencil for hire. And you always have to sort of keep in mind that no matter what you do, you really are working for somebody else and somebody else's tastes. And very often directors will say, well, that's not what I had in mind at all. I shot it with this in mind, and I shot it this, and I shot it that, and I wanted this to happen.
It's also worth noting this quote from James Horner in an interview with CinemaScore. That is very often what one is up against, where a producer or director has seen the movie and has temp-tracked it with someone else's music, has fallen in love with that score, and says, this is what we want, period. You try to fight against that a little bit, but sometimes you can't. I've been told very amazing things where they say we want exactly that kind of score. We want that exact kind of cue. Just put it in your own language, but that's exactly what we want. A film composer can certainly be fired for not writing what the director wants to hear. Philip Lambro was replaced by Jerry Goldsmith for Chinatown after a screening where the movie did not receive favorable reviews and the blame was placed on the music even though it was well received before. Alan Silvestri composed just over 20 minutes of music for the 1996 Mission Impossible before being replaced by Danny Elfman. Alan Silvestri was also replaced for Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl because the producer didn't feel that it had his sound. The worst case of this is when Alex North's score for 2001: A Space Odyssey was replaced, without his knowledge, with the temp tracks. Thankfully, Jerry Goldsmith recorded North's score in 1993, so all was not lost. A question can be asked about the film director's choice for the music. Why do they insist on music sounding similar to their temp tracks, or even to be similar to someone else's music? There are two parts to the answer. The first comes from how movie music started. Originally, live musicians would improvise music based on what is happening on screen. When a full orchestra was involved, they would have a list of classical music to play during certain scenes. This is why the wedding march from Mendelssohn's Midsummer Night's Dream is the stereotypical wedding march. Similarly, Chopin's third movement to his second piano sonata is the stereotypical funeral march. Later, books of new music were released in volumes of photoplay music, but were just remixes of the classical works that were used before. As time progressed, and here's the second part to the answer, Film directors needed to market their material so that they can make more money off of the film. That's why you see decisions like using Back to the Future music in the trailer for D2 The Mighty Ducks.
They're heading to California.
Let's party! Yeah!
For the World Championships.
This year, the team to beat is Iceland.
And most likely why James Horner used the main melody from Schindler's List in several of his movies. They were follow-ups to big hit films, so directors wanted to grab the audience's attention or subconsciously trick them into thinking they will like the movie. Critics have not always been on the side of the composers. Beethoven's Third Symphony was premiered at the same time as Antoni Breuil's Symphony in E-flat. And guess which one received higher reviews? It was not the Beethoven. But the question now is, when was the last time you heard Antoni Breuil's Symphony in E-flat? Have you even heard of Antoni Breuil at all? Richard Strauss was also heavily criticized, so much so that he pokes fun at the critics in Ein Heldenleben. It's also not new that composers sample older works in their music. I'm very curious of the difference between classic composers and any of these modern examples.
I don't know where to start.
Brahms' First Symphony contains many similarities to Beethoven's symphonies. Here's two examples. When he was approached about the similarities, he said, "An ass can see that." Other examples of famous composers having similarities to others include these. Film composers are also oftenly accused of self-plagiarism. Class composers reuse past materials all the time. Finding these similarities can either be noticing proof of inspiration or a pure coincidence, as it's very much possible for multiple people to come up with the same idea.
Isaac Newton and Gottfried Leibniz both invented calculus around 1684. Charles Darwin proposed the theory of evolution by natural selection, but Alfred Russel Wallace had pretty much the same idea at pretty much the same time. And Alexander Graham Bell and Elisha Gray filed patents for the telephone on the same day. We call this multiple discovery, the same innovation emerging from different places. Science and invention is riddled with it, but it can also happen in the arts. In film, for instance, we had 3 Coco Chanel movies released within 9 months of each other. Around 1999, we had a quartet of sci-fi movies about artificial reality.
There do exist real cases of music plagiarism, though. There's a lawsuit over the similarities in the soundtracks to Titus and 300, for example. The idea that modern composers are now stealing classical works for their music is a little bit off, because this is something that composers have been doing for years. Most examples are only a few notes long. The longer versions are typically explained away by temp tracks. There's very few examples of actual plagiarism happening. So the next time you hear Adventures on Earth from E.T., before you think, hey, John Williams stole that from Howard Hanson's third movement of his second symphony, remember Mahler did something similar with his first symphony and Beethoven's fourth. And both of those are just minor key versions of the cello line from Pachelbel's Canon in D. I hope you enjoyed this look into all music being a remix, and that film composers borrowing older works is nothing new and sometimes not even their fault. There's a few examples of plagiarism accusations that I'd like to take a deeper look into, but I'm going to make those their own videos, and I'll add them into a playlist attached to this video that you can check out as well. So I hope I changed a few minds on how they look at film composers. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, subscribe to my channel for more videos like this one, and horn ensemble recordings, and I'll see you guys in the next video.